Welcome to Bookmas! It's the first day of December, so now I get to bust open my Harry Potter sock advent calendar, so I'm pretty jazzed about it. On the first day of Bookmas, my advent calendar gave to me a pair of Gryffindor socks. These are cute! I'm Morgan, and today I'm going to be doing my November wrap-up. I'm going to be going over the books that I read in the month of November. There are 6 of them, which I'm pretty jazzed about. Pretty good reading month given how hectic November was. So as I've been doing lately, I'm going to go from my least rated to my highest rated book, because that's how I like to organize my wrap-ups now. The first book I'm going to talk about is one that I did a review for, and I read it earlier this month for the Scallywagathon, and it was not rated high, if you saw my review, and that was Genuine Fraud by Lockhart. I ended up giving this a 2.5 out of 5 stars, and I will leave my video review and my Goodreads review in the description and in the cards somewhere, maybe. This follows our main characters, Jewel and Imogen, and that's really all I can tell you because the synopsis is really vague, and I think that the best way to go into this book is not knowing anything about it if you're gonna go into it. I personally was not a fan of the way that this was written, especially because the one thing I enjoyed about Lockhart's previous book, We Were Liars, was that it was so beautifully written, and this just wasn't. If you want to see more of my spoiler-free thoughts on this book, I will definitely leave my review somewhere so you can check it out. This book was just kind of a flop for your girl. The next one I'm going to talk about, I rated 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and that was Born to Love, Cursed to Feel by Samantha King. This is a poetry collection. I was in a pretty poetry mood this month. You'll see later. You'll see what I mean. This was one I had on my radar for a really long time because she is the fiance of a poet I really enjoy, R.H. Sin, and he talks about this book quite frequently. So I was really excited to check this out, but I think that this is more of like a prose collection than a poetry collection, and a lot of it were just like blanket statements. I wasn't the biggest fan of this collection, if I'm being completely honest. There were some that I really enjoyed, so that's why it got like a 3-star, which is just my general like meh rating. Delivery of some of these poems weren't what I was expecting and weren't the best. That doesn't mean that every poem in this book was bad. It was just pretty lackluster for me. I'm pretty picky when it comes to my poetry collections. There were some poems that I really enjoyed, that really resonated with me, but it just wasn't my favorite. The rest of the books I read this month were 5-star reads, but 2 of them were rereads. I'm going to talk about the 5 stars that were rereads and then the new 5 stars because that makes more sense to me. I don't know. But the first 5-star book that I'm going to talk about that was a reread was another poetry collection, and that was Forgive Me My Salt by Brenna Twohy. I mentioned this book in my Books That I'm Thankful For video that I uploaded like right before Thanksgiving. This is more like my alley of poetry collections because Brenna Twohy is a spoken word poet and a slam poet. Found her through button poetry videos of her performances, and I fell in love. These are tabs of just some of my favorite poems. I love it so much. She talks so much about abusive relationships and about sexual assault and overcoming assault. I love every poem in this book, but one of my favorites is that awful moment when I can only write poems about leaving and or about Limp Bizkit. Weird title, but a phenomenal poem, and I'm so glad to have picked this up and reread it this month. Yeah. The next one I picked up was one of my other 5-star reads, and it was a reread, and it was a poetry collection, and that is Our Numbered Days by Neil Hilborn. I can't talk about this enough. It's one of my favorite poetry collections of all time, seeing as Neil Hilborn is one of my favorite poets of all time.
And people.
And people. I think I've said this in like 3 of my videos, but my edition of Our Numbered Days is signed and personalized to me because I had the greatest pleasure of getting to see Neil perform some of his poems live here in Columbus, and I got to meet Neil. Here's a picture of me with Neil last February. Yeah. Neil Hilborn talks a lot about his struggle with obsessive compulsive disorder as well as bipolar disorder. He writes a lot about his mental illness. Some are in this book, some are floating around on the internet because he is also a slam poet and a spoken word artist. I love this collection. You might know his name because one of his most popular poems is one called OCD, which has gone so viral, it's ridiculous. Everyone and their mom has seen that poem at some point. There are definitely a lot of other poems in here that are really great. One of my favorites is called Joey. I think that's one of the strongest poems that Neil has. I'll link the videos to some of my favorite Neil Hilborn and Brenna Twohy poems in the description if you're interested in checking out some new slam poets and spoken word artists. I highly recommend this book. I love rereading it and revisiting the poems that I love so much and reminding myself why Neil is one of my favorite poets. Okay, gonna talk about new books I read and rated 5 stars this month. First one I'm going to talk about was the Hot Mess Book Club Book of the Month for November, and that was Simon vs. the Homosapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. So good! I uploaded a short little spoiler-free review of this book on my channel, so if you want to check that out, I'll leave links somewhere. This is about our main character Simon Spear, and he is a closeted gay teen. For a while, he's been corresponding through emails anonymously with a boy named Blue, and he doesn't know anything about Blue except that he goes to his school. And one day he leaves one of the emails up on the school computer and it gets seen by this boy named Martin, and he basically blackmails Simon to help him get a date with Simon's friend Abby, or he will share those emails with the whole school outing Simon. Really weird premise, and that premise definitely made me hesitant about enjoying this book, but I really liked it. Becky Albertalli is known for having really diverse reads and really authentically diverse reads, and I definitely agree that this just felt very authentic. It covers really sensitive and heavy subject matter, but with a light hand, so it's not like you're reading something super heavy. There are scenes of like coming out and of blackmail things happening, and also homophobia and prejudice because this does take place in a small town in Georgia. This book was wonderful. I will leave the link to the Hot Mess Book Club live show that is still up on Rhiannon's channel where we discuss this book in length. A lot of links in the description today. I love doing the Hot Mess Book Club books every month and getting to talk with all of you guys, as well as Rhiannon, Dana, and Deja. It's a really fun time. This was super great. I highly recommend it. I can't wait to read more of Becky Albertalli's works and to see Love, Simon in March. Right, it comes out in March, right? Right. And the last book I'm going to talk about is the last 5-star book that I read this month, and I don't have it with me anymore. I just took it back to the library, and that is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the first book in the Raven Cycles series. Oh my god, nobody warned me how great this book was. This follows our main character, Blue Sargent. She's the daughter to a psychic, and she comes from a whole line of psychics and clairvoyants, but she personally doesn't have any psychic abilities, but she is able to enhance the abilities of everyone around her. And she has been told basically her entire life this prediction that when she kisses the true love of her life, he will die. It follows her, and it follows these 4 boys that go to this prep school, go by the Raven Boys because their mascot for their school is a raven. The boys are on the hunt for this Welsh king who has been sleeping for a long time. Legends say that if they wake up the Welsh king, that he will grant them like a wish or grant them power or something like that. It's so good. It's so good. I loved it, and I wasn't expecting to love it. It's like fantasy with a side of contemporary, but it's also like a contemporary with a side of fantasy. It was great. Oh my god, I loved it so much, and I cannot wait to pick up the second book in the very near future. Yes, my voice cracked. Leave me alone. I absolutely loved it. It was great. I have a lot of feelings about it. If you want me to do a review, let a girl know. I am not opposed to that in the slightest. But yeah, guys, there you have it. That is my November wrap-up. I'm super excited to start, like, uploading videos every day in December. That's gonna be wild. Leave it a thumbs up if you want. Let me know what you read in November, what you liked reading this November. If you want to see more of my content, you can always subscribe. I upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but during December, you're going to see my face all through December 1st to December 25th, so that's pretty neat. And like I said, my name is Morgan. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and happy reading. Okay, bye!